There's a theory in the Brendan Schaub discourse, and yes, there is enough Brendan Schaub discourse to have theories, that goes like this. The fastest way to advance your comedy career is to work with Brendan Schaub, and then stop.
Yeah, and then I got some sad news. I'm going to be taking a step back from being on King and the Sting, and I just want to thank you guys for just being a part of my life.
Theo Von left King and the Sting, sold out theaters, massive JRE appearances, one of the hottest podcasters alive. Mark Harley got fired from Thick Boy Studios, landed a national commercial, aired during the Super Bowl.
This just in. You don't want to be less. A series on the changing American market.
Chappelle Lacey stopped being Schaub's fast friend, got taken seriously as a comedian. See the pattern? Every time someone escapes Brendan Schaub, their career levels up, which kind of makes him the final boss of Cringe. Not just a bad comedian, not just a delusional podcaster, the final boss, the guy you have to beat, or at the very least leave, before the universe lets you have a real career.
Speaking of shitty websites, I clicked on, because Fair God, Fair God, the clothing, they had this new drop, and I went to I thought I clicked Fair God, but it's Fair of Gods with a Z, but it looked exactly the same. And I'm like, damn, they have all my size in this? I'm ordering everything. 4 weeks later, I'm like, where the stuff at? Not just didn't come.
So you clicked the Fear of God's link?
I didn't know. They made it look exactly. It was Fear of Gods.
So that's what happens because if you didn't get LASIK and you had fucking contacts, you would have seen that.
Boom, dude. Never
Z
came.
with a Z, dude.
I know. I can
Not
tell.
even an S.
Can we start tallying a list of how many times Brendan
I've
has
been hustled?
Dude, pull up Fear of Gods.
Oh, don't get me started on this transgender hooker, dude. No, I'm just kidding. I swear it was a girl, man.
Fear of Gods. You can pull that up.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. 2 Z's, 3
So
Z's. They got me.
And they're not sending you Fear of God's stuff.
Oh no, they just took your.
Today we're going to talk about how that happened. The squandered opportunities, the fired superfans, the Austin storage unit with a ring light, and why, after all of it, Brendan Schaub remains the most committed, most consistent, most fascinatingly self-unaware figure in the comedy-adjacent internet. Let's get into it. Every long-running piece of pop culture mythology eventually gets a name. The Madden Curse, the Sports Illustrated cover jinx, the Brendan Schaub curse. That last one works a little differently from the others, though. Usually a curse hurts the person it touches. The Schaub curse works in reverse. It blesses everyone who escapes him. You leave Brendan Schaub, you get blessed, you stay, you're in the video.
If you're a comic, Brendan talks about you. Brendan is a narcissistic asshole who lies to people and defames them behind their back. That's not the kind of guy that I feel any sort of loyalty to protect his nature now.
Think you ever moved back to Cali?
Well, let's see what this guy has to say.
Sorry, Brendan. The podcast is over. It's just going to be some sting, Brendan.
Theo Von is the clearest example. For years, Theo co-hosted King and the Sting with Schaub. And if you watch the old episodes, the dynamic is painfully obvious.
You just got to handle some shit, brother. There's a bigger thing for you out there,
Theo is funny, like naturally effortlessly funny. The kind of comic who finds an angle on anything. And Schaub is there, redirecting, missing the point of his own jokes, turning every punchline into a segue about his NFL combine numbers or his time at the gym with Joe.
He won a Rose Bowl at Northwestern. He was so intimidating.
Who didn't?
He's the only one ever. But that's why he's a legend.
Watch a King and the Sting episode from 2019, and you'll see Theo set up a bit, feel it building, and then watch Schaub walk directly through the middle of it like a golden retriever crossing a construction zone. No malice. Just an absolute inability to read the room he is currently standing in. Then Theo steps back from the show.
Yeah, and then I got some sad news. I'm going to be taking a step back from being on King and the Sting. And I just want to thank you guys for just being a part of my life.
And suddenly, promotion. Not eventually. Not after a lot of hard work. Almost immediately. His podcast takes off. His YouTube clips start going everywhere. His stand-up sells out rooms that comedians twice his age couldn't fill. He becomes the kind of name that people who don't follow comedy still know.
And I'll never forget this. Theo gave me great advice. He's like, it's okay, man. We had such a good time. We built something so special. You're my best friends. It's all good, dude. It's ran its course. I was like, yeah, you're right, dude. He's like, go run it with Dilly and Eric Griffin. It's all good, dude. Yeah. I was like, you're right. It is all good. Like, how long are we going to do this? Right. He's like, how long do you want to do this, man? Yeah. Like, you're right, brother.
The second Theo stopped babysitting Schaub's punchlines, the universe gave him a promotion. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. Then there's Chappelle Lacey. In Schaub world, Chappelle was introduced to the audience in the most perfectly Brendan way possible, as the guy who beat Brendan in a foot race. That's literally how he entered the discourse. Not as a comedian, not as a performer, as a prop in a Schaub anecdote about Schaub's athleticism.
Stand-up, I got in because it was basically a dare. Someone dared me.
A dare?
Yeah. I used to drink real heavy, 7 years off of that shit.
How old are you, by the way?
33.
33, okay.
Yeah.
We're the same age.
Oh, hell yeah. You do not look 33.
I know. 1987, baby.
But once Chappelle builds his own lane, once he's not attached at the hip to the fighter and the kid universe, people start seeing him as his own thing, a comedian, with an actual voice. Turns out, when you're not busy being someone else's punchline setup, you get to have punchlines of your own. Who knew?
I saw people playing Frisbee. Yeah, no dogs. Not a dog in sight. Yeah, it was humans. Back and forth, just
And then there's Mark Harley. And this one is where the Schaub curse goes from funny to actually kind of fascinating.
If you're a comic, Brendan talks about you. Brendan is a narcissistic asshole who lies to people and defames them behind their back. That's not the kind of guy that I feel any sort of loyalty to protect his nature now.
Mark worked at Thick Boy Studios as basically a handler. He was doing everything. The text that later came out, allegedly, showed Schaub directing him to DM women on his behalf, run personal errands, handle logistics that had nothing to do with any formal job description. He was less an employee and more a lifestyle management service that Schaub had accidentally turned into a person. Then he gets fired.
Yay or nay? We can do that. If you had to hire one person on the crew out of this list, who would it be and why? These are all former employees. Christian was awesome. Kat's awesome. Malik B was awesome. Chappelle's awesome. Any of them besides that last one. Just because he doesn't have any skills. And that's the reason he doesn't work here anymore. He just didn't have skills. He was an assistant, but he was a friend. So I was trying to find something for him. There's just nothing for him to do.
And Schaub, being Schaub, reportedly frames it as some kind of opportunity for Mark. New directions, growth, the usual.
Happened with the beef between you and Mark Harley. Seems like you went from bros to foes, bros to hoes. Hope all's good between you guys now, though. There was never any beef. There's no beef. I have no ill will towards the guy. I helped him out for a long time, and then, it didn't work out, and he decided to go the route he went. It's expected, Hope all's good between you guys now, though. I don't think of him. I don't know what he's doing. Hopefully he's doing well. I have no ill will towards him. He was a talented dude. I hope he figures his stuff out. That's it, man. I don't know. Hopefully he's doing all right.
And here's where it gets genuinely poetic. Mark Harley goes on to land commercial work. National spots. Stuff that aired during the Super Bowl.
This just in. You don't want to be less. A series on the changing American market.
He becomes, without a podcast, without a UFC background, without a single Joe Rogan cosign, more successful in Hollywood than Schaub has ever been. Schaub thought he was firing dead weight. He was actually firing the guy who would out-Schaub him in Hollywood, without ever touching a microphone. But there's one more character in this story, the superfan known as George. Schaub announced the hiring of a superfan on air once.
Before I close out tonight, I gotta bring this gentleman on stage. His name's George. He's all the way from Chicago. Let me tell you about George real quick. George, a My man George here, a year and a half ago on King of the Sting, sent a submission in, and he was, yeah, man. Now, George was 450 pounds, and he said, dude, if I lose 200 pounds, I'll fly to LA and I will wrestle Stevie. I went, dude, you lose 200 fucking pounds, I will fly you to LA, I will fly you to my show, have you backstage. This is George. George's a badass.
Framing it as this wholesome, heartwarming moment. Guy loves the show so much, he's going to work for it. Beautiful. Very on brand for someone who needs people to believe he's a good guy. Then quietly, George is let go. Schaub tells an on-air version of events where he repositioned George into part-time work-from-home stuff. And really, it was just an evolution of his role, growth, opportunities, all the buzzwords. Then texts come out. From Mark. From George's mom. And the picture they paint is considerably less heartwarming. Outright fired, stranded, and then only offered insulting scraps of remote work after public backlash made the full story too embarrassing to leave hanging. And this is the quintessential Schaub move. Lie kind of badly. Forget what you said, get caught, then feel genuinely wounded that anyone is talking about it. Here's the thing about Brendan Schaub that makes him more than just a punchline. He has had genuinely remarkable opportunities, not manufactured ones, not participation trophy cosigns, real legitimate chances to build something lasting. And he has turned each one into the most embarrassing possible version of itself, with such consistency that it starts to feel like a philosophical commitment. Let's start at the beginning. Schaub was a UFC heavyweight. He wasn't a champion, but he was there. He had a real run. He made it to a level that most fighters never sniff. The issue is what came next. Specifically, how it ended. Joe Rogan, during a podcast, did what I can only describe as a career intervention. Live, on air. He essentially told Schaub, with genuine care and visible concern, that he was taking too much damage, that his chin was compromised, that continuing to fight at the top level was going to hurt him, and that it was time to walk away.
You're a smart dude, and the problem with smart dudes is smart dudes think about variables. You have to think about the future. You also think about brain damage. You think about concussions. You think about how many you've already had, how many you got coming up, how much damage you're taking in training. When does damage start to show up in your life? Like when does it show up? And how much can you mitigate? And how far is it when you're too far?
Now this moment is important, not because it happened, but because of what it represents. Joe Rogan, one of the most influential people in comedy and podcasting, personally redirecting this man's entire career out of loyalty and concern. That is the kind of thing that doesn't happen. That's a golden ticket, a cosign that comes with a map. So what does Schaub do with the golden ticket? He pivots to stand-up. With Rogan's full backing, with Brian Callen's support, with a built-in audience of MMA fans who already know his name, he releases specials.
It's my first comedy special, man, so it's a big week. And I get my hair cut every Tuesday because I'm an asshole.
Multiple of them. And those specials become something genuinely remarkable. Not for the reasons Schaub intended. They are, depending on who you ask, among the most cited examples of how did this get made comedy content in recent memory. Fan circles treat them like artifacts. Commentary channels mine them for clips. The general consensus is that Schaub invented a genre that didn't exist before, something like a motivational TED Talk, in which someone accidentally thinks they're doing comedy. To be clear, comedy is hard. Failing at it isn't disqualifying. But most people who fail at comedy don't do so after receiving essentially the warmest possible industry reception a new comic could get. Rogan didn't just open the door. He built a ramp, installed a moving walkway, and waved from the finish line. And Schaub somehow made the trip sideways.
I moved in a house recently. I moved in a new house in LA. Whenever you move in a new house, it's always weird, but it's even weirder in the middle of a pandemic. So we moved in a new house. My girl goes, why don't you just go over and introduce yourself, right? I'll bake some Mexican cookies, and you go over there. I'm like, what the fuck's a Mexican cookie? What are you talking about? It's like a chocolate chip with salsa all over it? What are you talking about? What are you... Dicey.
After the specials, there's the podcast era. And on paper, genuinely, sincerely on paper, the infrastructure is there. The Fighter and the Kid with Brian Callen taps into a real audience. The MMA community, the comedy world, the Rogan extended universe. These are not small ponds. But over time, something happens to the energy, the production, the vibe. There's a version of a podcast operation that feels like a growing thing, an expanding thing, and there's a version that starts to feel like it's circling something without landing. Thick Boy Studios, which sounds like it should be a thriving content company, increasingly generates the kind of content that spawns commentary channels about the content. The studio setups become a meme. The Austin era set, which we'll get to, earns descriptions like a storage unit with microphones from people who are being kind. And then there are the side hustles, which deserve their own moment of reflection. Tiger Thick whiskey, heavily promoted.
No more for you.
Do you know this whiskey is as old as America? It's older.
It's good.
They started making this whiskey in 1773.
I got Jamie was watching me. One of those stars flew over. I thought it was the end of the world in here. Those little stars.
Buffalo Trace. If I had one company to support in the liquor business, it would be Buffalo Trace. I fucking love those guys.
This is this?
Yeah, I love them. They're great.
I like
It's a
Ron
great
White's
company.
tequila,
Yeah.
too.
Oh, Ron White's the man. His tequila's legit. Yeah,
I didn't
that
get a
number
hangover,
one.
dog.
It's
Award-winning, per the marketing. Schaub talked about it like it was going to be a legacy brand, the kind of thing he'd hand down. If you look for evidence of it thriving now, you'll mostly find old bottles and thinner conversations. Dry Fast, All Gas, the truck giveaway brand, framed as a love letter to the fans, a give back, a community thing. Treated by commentary channels as a raffle-flavored grift wheel, spinning in place of an actual plan. This is a man who has had a UFC career, a Joe Rogan cosign, repeated JRE appearances, multiple podcasts, a whiskey brand, a truck brand, countless sponsored posts and partnerships. His biggest cultural legacy is other people's success stories after they stop returning his calls. There's a specific flavor of self-deception that Brendan Schaub has perfected. It goes like this. When something goes wrong, when a collaborator leaves, when a former employee speaks up, when a clip goes viral for the wrong reasons, Schaub doesn't get defensive in an obvious way. He gets wounded. He's not mad. He's hurt. He wishes them well. He's just confused about why anyone would do this when he's been so supportive. He gave them opportunities. He's a good guy who got betrayed by people who are, now that he thinks about it, probably dealing with some stuff mentally. This is the playbook, and it runs so consistently across situations that it stops being surprising and starts being almost impressive in its discipline. When former collaborators call him out, the response is remarkably predictable. Pivot to concern about their mental state, suggest the criticism comes from a place of instability or jealousy. Then position yourself as the bigger person who is simply too evolved to engage further. Then, engage further. Look at how Theo's success gets discussed in Schaub-adjacent spaces. Rather than, Theo is a genius, and I'm proud of what we built together, the framing edges towards suggestions that Theo is chasing clout, trying to get his name on stuff, working the algorithm, as if Theo selling out theaters is a cynical move, rather than the natural outcome of being one of the funniest people doing it.
Dude, that shit with Brendan, though, is crazy. That was like the worst game of Clue I'd ever seen in the world, dude, when you guys did that thing. It's like he had like these the files and the fold, and you guys had like missing people in the there was some guy beating kids on Reddit.
Yeah.
How do you, I can't even get into my Reddit. How do you beat kids on there? Like that was the whole thing was unbelievable.
The inability to simply say, he's great and I'm happy for him is the tell. Because a genuinely confident person watches their former co-host blow up and says, I always knew he was special. An insecure person watches the same thing happen and quietly reframes it as the other guy being strategic. The George situation crystallizes all of this beautifully. On air, Schaub tells a version of the story that is almost touching. He's helping George transition. New opportunities. Part-time work from home that's actually perfect for what George needs right now. It's framed as thoughtful, considerate, very much the act of a good employer who cares about his people. Then the texts surface. And the texts don't describe a thoughtful transition. They describe someone who was let go abruptly, left without support, and then offered insulting part-time table scraps, only after the heat from the situation became too much to ignore publicly. George's mom got involved. The whole thing became a case study in what happens when the story someone tells on air doesn't survive contact with documentation. And Schaub's response to that situation, to being caught in an obvious contradiction, is not to correct the record. It's to feel hurt, to suggest the people sharing information are acting in bad faith, to present himself as a man who did everything right and is being dragged for it. This is the pattern, every single time. And here's the reason it matters beyond just being funny. This is a guy who built a media operation on likability. The whole persona is big, lovable, dumb guy who's actually really positive and loves his friends. The gap between that persona and the documented reality of how he treats collaborators, employees, and former co-hosts is where most of the content lives. He's not a villain. He's something more interesting, a guy who genuinely believes his own press, even when the press is contradicted by his own texts. If you wanted to design the saddest possible final chapter for the Thick Boy Empire, it would look something like this. Joe Rogan moves to Austin. Rogan opens the comedy mothership. Austin becomes the unofficial second capital of a certain strain of podcast bro comedy culture. Everyone who wants to stay in the Rogan universe, or at least adjacent to it, makes the calculation. Some do it gracefully. Some do it because it genuinely makes sense. And Brendan Schaub does it because the alternative is admitting that the center of gravity moved and he's still standing in Los Angeles, wondering why it's so quiet. The Austin move gets documented by commentary channels in something close to real time. The new studio setup, the one that costs Rogan's old studio nothing in comparison, generates genuine bewilderment from people who look at it. It has the energy of something assembled quickly, in a space not quite designed for it, by someone who needed to look like they had a plan before confirming whether they actually had one. The storage unit with microphones description is uncharitable. It's also not entirely wrong. Meanwhile, Brian Callen, a comedian with actual credits, actual range, a real career in his rear view, is pushing 60 and writing this podcast as his main consistent platform. Not because he doesn't have other things going on, but because this is where the weekly content lives. And there's something quietly melancholy about watching a man with genuine comedic talent spend his podcast hours playing second fiddle to someone whose most memorable contribution to culture is generating this particular genre of commentary video. And forget Callen's last special. We'll talk about that in a different video. The whole Austin era has the feeling of a sequel that got greenlit by mistake, not the show itself. The decision to keep it going. The LA version had energy, even when it was chaotic. The Austin version feels like watching someone set up a pop-up shop next to a landmark and hoping some of the foot traffic drifts over. And this is where the final boss framing pays off, because the final boss isn't the hardest enemy in the game, because they're the most powerful. They're the final boss because they're the last obstacle, the thing you have to get past before the credits roll. You don't defeat the final boss by overpowering them. You defeat them by surviving them. Theo survived him, Chappelle survived him, Mark Harley survived him and got a Super Bowl commercial. Even George arguably survived him, because at least the story of what happened to him is honest now. And here's the tragic irony at the center of all of it. Brendan Schaub has had every resource, every connection, every platform, every cosign that should translate into something lasting. And the reason his story keeps generating content isn't because he's failing. It's because he's failing upward just enough to keep going, while everyone around him uses the exit he refuses to take as their personal launching pad. He's not broke. He's not canceled. He's not gone. He's just exactly where he's always been, convinced he's building something, while the people who used to be in the room with him are on magazine covers. That's not tragedy. That's a genre. So let's bring it home. Brendan Schaub is the final boss of Cringe, not because he's the worst person in entertainment, or the least talented, or the most dishonest, though he's made strong arguments for all three at various points. He's the final boss because of the structure of his story.
Dude, I'll tell you what, man. I was at right down by the beach in Hawaii. I was probably the most out of shape dad.
What?
The dads there were shredded.
Is that true?
The dads were shredded.
That's
I felt
annoying.
like a fat pig.
Is
I felt
that
like
right?
Adele. I felt like Adele at the beach.
No.
Yeah, dude.
Like the male Adele?
He gets the UFC. He gets the Rogan intervention that saves his brain and opens a new door. He gets the comedy cosigns. He gets the podcasts and the brands and the audience. And he turns every single one of them into the most embarrassing version of itself, while somehow making everyone around him better by proximity and then by departure. He is, in a very specific and almost beautiful way, the obstacle, the thing you have to reckon with, work around, or walk away from before your real career can start. The guy who made Theo funnier by making him have to carry a show, who made Harley hungrier by making him feel disposable, who made Chappelle more serious by treating him like a footnote. That's a legacy. It's just not the one he's building toward. If you've got a favorite Brendan Schaub moment, a clip, a story, I can't believe this actually happened, drop it in the comments. This rabbit hole goes deep, and I am absolutely not done. Like the video if you stayed till the end. Subscribe if you want the next one. And remember, the fastest way to level up your career, you already know the answer.